Hey Gervasio, I know that you know what it takes to be successful. Yes, that's why I want to share here right now with you the number one key to become successful. Yes, the number one key to become successful. It will be delivered by my mentors, many of them, just for with one word: believe in yourself. Pay attention.
Believe.
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 Believe. Believe.
That's true. It all can be concluded in one single word: believe. The question now is, what is a belief? Well, I will leave out to my mentors to answer those questions. That key question: what is a belief, and how can you create a belief?
Belief systems are important because if you don't have a strong belief system, it will not allow you to set the groundwork to attract
So
women.
much of success is seeing yourself as victorious. You have to see yourself. You have to really believe in yourself. And sometimes it's hard. You know, you've had failures, you've had weaknesses, you've had other things. You have to see yourself as a one-man band. Don't rely too much on other people because they'll let you down. You have to see yourself as victorious. And to be a winner, you have to think like a winner. If you don't think like a winner, it's just never going to happen.
The other thing is that our beliefs become our reality. So there's a guy named Robert Anton Wilson that wrote a book called Prometheus Rising. And in the book, he has a great quote where he says, "What the thinker thinks, the prover proves." And my take on it is what he's saying is that our mind is designed in such a specific way that it focuses its attention on finding real-world evidence of our beliefs. So no matter how far-fetched the belief is, if it's an unwavering belief, your mind will find real-world evidence to back up the belief.
Now think of this. Let's get ready for it. We have infinite potential. Now I've talked about this in another series here, and I want to hit on it again. No one can guess. The most erudite scientist alive cannot even guess at what you're capable of doing. You may be sitting there and will say, how do you know that? You don't even know me. Because we all have infinite potential. You see, we're spiritual beings. Spirit's omnipresent. Spirit's 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. I'm going to tell you, when God created us, He created the greatest and the best, the highest form of intelligence on the planet. And we're not utilizing it properly. We have infinite potential. There's no end to what we can bring to the surface. No one even knows what we're capable of doing, least of all you. I don't care what religion you belong to. You could be Christian, Hindu, Jew. Every religion teaches that you have infinite potential. Yes, you're able. You might not know how. You might not have the resources, but you've got to admit, I'm able to do this. I am able to do that. Then you have to ask, am I willing? And that's where we get caught up. Am I willing? Am I willing to experience the discomfort? Am I willing to hurt? Am I willing to give up what I have to give up to get it? Am I willing to spend the time? Am I willing to study? I remember one time reading in an airline magazine an interview with Walter Cronkite. This was years ago. And the person that was doing the interviewing was talking to Cronkite about the astronauts because he knew them all, you know, interviewing them all. And the interview said, they must have had tremendous courage to get in those capsules. And Cronkite said, on the contrary, they didn't need any courage at all to get in those capsules. He said they got in those thousands of times. They got into simulators thousands of times. They had been there many, many times. Everything was programmed. Everything. Anything went wrong, they were programmed what to do. He said what took the courage was the years of study, the sacrifice, the giving up what they gave up to learn what they had to learn to get in those capsules. Well, are you willing to pay the price? You may want to be a scratch golfer. I had mentioned that earlier. Are you willing to practice? See, I played golf, but I wasn't willing to practice. I'd go out, I hadn't hit a ball all winter, and I'd just stand, tee it up, and away I'd go. And I never knew where it was going to go. It was always a bit of a puzzle to me where it would end up. Pros don't do that. They don't do that in anything. If you really want to collect in this life at what you're doing, you've got to be willing to pay the price. Now, the beautiful thing about sacrifice isn't losing, sacrifice is gaining. Sacrifice is giving up something of a lower nature to receive something of a higher nature. You see, what you're doing is you're making a space for the good that you desire. So we start out with our fantasy. We say, am I able? Absolutely, I'm able. Then am I willing? Well, you see, if you're going after something you really love, yes, you'll be willing. I love what I do. I absolutely love it. And I'm going to do it until I move out of this body. I mean, it's just, I think I'm involved in the greatest work in the world. And I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to get better at it. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to learn how to communicate it more effectively. You want to be willing to do what you have to do to become the best at what you're doing. You see, a pro is at his best regardless. It doesn't matter what's going on, they're going to perform. Now, when you say, yes, I'm able, and yes, I'm willing, at that second, your theory turns into a goal. Now you want to take that goal and you internalize it. You let it move into your subconscious mind. You start adding emotion to it. You get emotionally involved. And the second you do that, your goal begins to move into form. Now, by law, that's called the transmutation of energy. See, an energy flowed into our consciousness. It had no form. We gave it form. We built the image. And then we internalized that image. It altered the vibration we were in, which caused us to act different. But you know what else it did? It set up an attractive force, and it brought to us stuff that we would have never brought to ourselves. We attracted everything we needed. If it was money we needed, we'd attract. If it was a book we needed, if it was the assistance we needed, it would be there. The idea in our mind began to move into form. Do you know what that's called in religious terms? That's called prayer. Most people think prayer is getting on their knees and making a noise. That's what that is, getting on their knees and making a noise. Prayer is the movement that takes place between spirit and form with and through us. We're spiritual beings. We can tap into pure, unadulterated spirit, and we can build the idea out of pure, unadulterated spirit. And by internalizing that idea and turning it over to spirit, it gives it back to us in physical form. God operates so perfectly. And you know something? That idea will move into form. It becomes a fact. And that's how goals are achieved. We start out with a fantasy. We go to the theory. We pass the test. Yes, I'm able, and yes, I'm willing. And then we internalize the idea, and it moves into form. So what do we give up? We give up the idea of going after what we know and what we think we can do, and we go after what we want. So now, stop and ask yourself, what do you really want? See, the only prerequisite is, can you see it? Can you see it on the screen of your mind? If you can see it on the screen of your mind, you're quite capable of doing it. And then can you believe it? See, Napoleon Hill said there's a difference between wishing for something and being ready to receive it. He said no one's ready to receive it until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. And where does belief comes from? It's in all the good books. It's throughout the Bible. It's throughout the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah. You've got to believe. James Allen talks about it all through his books. William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact. Well, my old mentor, Leland Val Vanderwall, he laid it out for me one day. He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate the situation, our belief about that situation will change. It took me 9 years to figure that out. That's how my life changed. I started to believe in me. I started to find out things about me.
Because they don't understand the process I went through. Mm-hmm. And how much I had to believe in myself in order to make these things happen. I feel like you can will yourself into a good space. Mm-hmm. Things that are meant to happen will. And if you believe in yourself enough, you can help yourself learn. You can inspire, yourself in different ways where you can actually discipline yourself. Mm-hmm. To the point that you can become good enough. Like from 97, like when I started writing, it was full time. Like every day I was writing music because I had no choice. If I was gonna stop hustling, then how was I gonna provide or continue the lifestyle that I created for my son's mom, my son, and myself?
I'm not gonna sit inside of a corporation for 20 years. The time is now. The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great.
Because it is true that whatever your mind feeds upon, your mind attracts to you. Now you see why it is important that you recognize that all success begins with definiteness of purpose.
Of his is that success leaves clues.
Yes.
That might be like my favorite thing that he ever said.
Sure.
And it really provokes you. You know, I go, wow, that's fascinating. You know, and so anyway, success leaves clues. So we were hunting for the clues, and one of the things that we recognized is that really successful people are self-appointed. They first said, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do this. And then once they did it, then everyone else just accepted it and said, oh yeah, well, you should be the successful one.
And then if somebody doesn't accept it, you look at them odd. And
because it is true that whatever your mind feeds upon, your mind attracts to you. Now you see why it is important that you recognize that all success begins with definiteness of purpose.
Belief systems are important because if you don't have a strong belief system, it will not allow you to set the groundwork. You have to have a strong belief system. And the other thing is that our beliefs become our reality. So there's a guy named Robert Anton Wilson that wrote a book called Prometheus Rising. And in the book, he has a great quote where he says, what the thinker thinks, the prover proves. And my take on it is what he's saying is that our mind is designed in such a specific way that it focuses its attention on finding real-world evidence of our beliefs. So no matter how far-fetched the belief is, if it's an unwavering belief, your mind will find real-world evidence to back up the belief. So I want you guys to do a simple exercise just to demonstrate this. I want you to become aware of everything in the room that's red. Just notice that. Take a few moments. Okay, now close your eyes. And I want you to recall everything that was red. Now, keeping your eyes closed, I want you to recall everything in your environment that was yellow. Okay, now open your eyes. Now, with most of you, I bet you could remember more red things than yellow things because that's where your focus of attention was. Now, beliefs are the exact same way. I have a belief, and it's a very powerful one, for example. There's a lot more in my book, but I'm going to share one with you guys. It's very powerful. That I believe that I'm a giant sausage with feet that women are always trying to molest. And what's funny is that the more real-world evidence, because that's how your mind's designed, that I get that that's actually true, the stronger the belief becomes. The stronger it becomes, the more convincing I begin to convey this to women. And this kind of goes into another thing that's extremely important, and it's the idea of having a strong intent when you're talking to a woman. A strong intent is having the will and the desire to do whatever it takes, whatever needs to be done, to get your intended outcome. So it's having that desire to do whatever it takes to get your intended outcome, coupled with the belief that you can actually get that outcome. When those two things are in place, you come across to women as very powerful. And this kind of starts triggering some of those biological mechanisms inside of them that, as I have it, puts them into heat, primes the pump for them to mate with you. Because it has nothing to do with what you look like or how much money you make or anything like that. I don't care if they're married. I don't care if they have a boyfriend. They're designed in such a way that if you do specific things, it will put them into heat. It will put them into a stage where they're ready to mate. Now, their logical mind might try and fight it, but biologically, they'll go into that state where they're ready to have sex with you. So I used to have a weak intent for many, many years. And it's interesting because I remember situations where I'd be talking to women, and after talking to them for a while, they'd lose interest in me. Or they would think that I was BSing them. And what was happening is even the women that were lumbered with an IQ, barely into the double digits, were picking up on my internal weakness. And what I did is I developed some exercises for kind of developing an extremely powerful intent. And what I do, for example, is, David talks about cocky and funny. And one of the intended outcomes of cocky and funny is to create this thing called sexual tension. So if I'm using a cocky and funny line and my intended outcome is for her to feel sexual tension. Before I even deliver that line, I already visualize her feeling that sexual tension. It's extremely powerful. You know, if I'm telling a story and I want her to be intrigued, I rehearse her being intrigued before I even tell the story. If my intended outcome is for her to try and kiss me, after I kissed her and pushed her away, I rehearse it before I even do it, and it's extremely powerful when you do that. So, when you have a strong intent, all of the tools that you're using, whether it's cocky and funny, whether it's an opener, whatever it is, it all kind of drops away. It all kind of becomes transparent. It's kind of like when you're driving a car, right? You're going to a particular destination. You're focused on your destination, but it's almost as if the car becomes transparent, unless you get a flat tire and then you become conscious of the car again. Well, the same thing is true when you're throwing all this material at women. If you have a strong intent, all you're focused on is your strong intent. Everything else drops away. Now, at a certain point, it might break down. There might be something that interrupts the strong intent, such as doubting yourself. At that point, you and the woman become very conscious of the fact that you're trying to do something to get a particular outcome. Not a good thing.
If you want the mind to pick up an idea and to form a habit so that the mind will automatically act upon that idea, you've got to tell the mind what you want over and over and over again. No end to it. When Mr. Coué came over here some years ago with his famous formula, day by day in every way I'm getting better and better, he cured thousands of people, but a very great number more than that he didn't cure. And I wonder if you would know why. There was no desire, there was no feeling put into that statement. You might just as well blow in the wind as to make a statement unless you put some feeling back of it. Unless you believe it. Any dominating desire, plan, or purpose which is backed by that state of mind known as faith is taken over by the subconscious section of the mind and acted upon immediately. I don't know for sure, ladies and gentlemen, but I suspect that there's a relatively small number of people in the world at any one time who understand the principle of faith, who really understand it and know how to apply it. And even if you do understand it, if you don't back it up with action and make it a part of your habit life, you might just as well not understand it. Because faith without deeds is dead. Faith without action is dead. Faith without absolute positive belief is dead. I don't know how you're going to get any results through believing unless you put some action back of that belief. And incidentally, if you tell your mind often enough that you have faith in anything, the time will come when your subconscious mind will accept that. Even if you tell your mind often enough that you have faith in yourself. Had you ever thought what a nice thing it would be if you had such complete faith in yourself that you wouldn't hesitate to undertake anything you wanted to do in life? Had you ever thought what a benefit that would be to you? Your personality determines whether people are attracted to you or shy away from you. It is the show window in which you display your character to the world, and it is the one thing which distinguishes you from all other human beings. It is your trademark by which people recognize you, and it is the thing which determines your success or failure in selling yourself through life. Therefore, you should see your personality just as others see it, so you may improve it where it needs improvement. If you would sit down and put an hour-by-hour account of the actual work that you put in each day for 1 week, and then an hour-by-hour account of the time that you waste that you could devote to anything you want to if you wanted to, badly enough, you're going to get one of the shocks of your life. We're not efficient. You know, you have about 8 hours to sleep and about 8 hours to earn a living, then have 8 hours of free time that you can do anything that you want to with here in this country where we live. And then definiteness of purpose makes one more alert in recognizing opportunities related to the object of one's major purpose. And it inspires the courage to embrace and act upon those opportunities. And now, we all see opportunities almost every day of our lives, which, if we embraced them and acted upon them, could benefit us. But there's something in us that we call procrastination. We just don't have the will, the alertness, the determination to embrace opportunities when they come along. But if you condition your mind with this philosophy, you'll not only embrace opportunities, but you'll do something better. What could you do better than embrace an opportunity? Make the opportunity. That's the idea. Success is something which has to be planned, and success is something which has to be earned in advance. True, there is such a thing as luck, but just remember that luck is something you can create for yourself if you know the rules and follow them just as I give them to you. Remember, too, that success in the higher brackets of achievement is something that can be had only by taking others along with you. And the best definition of success, which I know, is this. Success is the knowledge with which to get whatever you want from life without violating the rights of others and by helping others to acquire it. The very minute that you decide upon something, you know that's what you want, you know you're going to do it, all of these negatives that have been bothering you, they pick up their baggage and get out. They just move out. They can't live in a positive mind. Can you imagine a negative frame of mind and a positive frame of mind occupying the same space at the same time? Could you imagine that? No, you can't, because it can't be done. And did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy the power of prayer? Did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy your plan, whatever it is you're doing, carrying out your definiteness of purpose? You have to move with courage, with faith, with determination in connection with carrying out your definiteness of purpose. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. Isn't that a profound statement? You will notice that it says nothing about the need for education, but simply that whatever your mind can conceive and believe, your mind can achieve. Now, if you want evidence that the mind can achieve whatever the mind can conceive without the benefit of formal education, you only have to remember that Thomas A. Edison conceived the idea of becoming an inventor and lived to become the world's greatest scientist.
Believe.
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 Believe.